Welcome to Light in the Dark podcast. I am your host, Lady B. Before we get into today's episode, I want to stress the words trigger warning. Topics discussed today may be triggering to some. You have been warned. Also, neither I nor the guest are licensed therapists, psychologists, counselors, etc. If you need a therapist, etc., then please seek a therapist, etc. There is no shame in getting your mental health together. Let me repeat that for the people in the back who did not hear. There is no shame in getting your mental health together. This podcast is about sharing our truths in a positive, safe, judgment free environment. Now, on that note, let's start the show. On today's episode, we have Cheryl, and the topic for today will be church hurt. All right, Cheryl, it's on you.
Childhood church. It had some good moments, but the majority of it that I remember was not so pleasant. Um, there was a lot of bullying. Um, there was a lot of judgments. Um, if I wore the same dress within the same month at church, people would look at me and just say all kinds of stuff to me. And I'm like, this is in church, adults included. So it just kind of gave me kind of an uneasy feeling going to church. And of course, kids are going to be kids. No matter where they are, they're going to be kids and they're going to pick on you anyway. But for me, when the adults are involved with that kind of just took a whole different toll. And there's moments where I was forced to go to church school. Church school for a long time, the teacher um, made a very, very bad impression. He was very lethargic, I guess. He didn't teach us anything. He just sat there, just let us do whatever. And um, one day we were outside playing a game, and these boys was picking on my sister. And I was like, "Can you please do something to stop them from picking on my sister?" He wouldn't do anything. That really made me mad. It got to the point where he really didn't do anything until they pushed her down, and she was bleeding from the mouth, and all kinds of stuff was happening. So that's when he stepped in. I'm like, I was trying to do this before. I was trying to get you to get off your behind and do something as the adult, but he just never cared. He never gave us any tests, any work, anything like that. And then when we went to actual church on actual church day, he was giving these praises as if he was doing a great job, and I'm like, really? Um, and for me, it was church hurt started in childhood because I hated church school and I hated church because it was always somebody judging me for how I looked, not of who I was or if I believed in God or anything like that. The first thing, people did was just, how they treated me based on my appearance and what I was wearing. And that kind of stuck with me. Um, but I eventually just gravitated with my grandmother because I actually loved church, and that started my attachment to learning and hanging out with grown folks, adults, because of course they were more the ones that didn't participate in the craziness. um, I learned a lot from them, and I actually loved church because of that. I grabbed on a lot, and I enjoyed it, especially hanging out with my grandmother. It was wonderful. Um, and fast forward, um, as an adult, going to a different type of church. Uh, of course, every church, nobody's perfect. Everybody has their people that you question, what you really doing here, why
Okay.
you really here. Um, my experience, more recent experience, was in church. They have all these types of ministries and things like that. And of course, my motivation for joining a ministry is because I'm doing this because either it's a passion of mine, I feel led to do it, I was being tugged by the Holy Spirit or something to do it. And not everybody welcomes that at the church, to be honest. If they're in that field and they feel like they're better than you at the church as a grown person that's supposed to be in it for God and not themselves, you would think that they would welcome you as an addition to the success of the ministry. No, I got ignored. I got just, left out of things. I even went to the pastor and wrote an email like, I'm trying to help. I want to be a part of this, but they're not including me. Pastor intervened, said, look, she can bring something very unique to the table. Please allow her to be a part of your ministry. And I got one phone call from them saying, well, we might be doing this. And of course, they stopped that, whatever they suggested to me. And then it was complete silence. I'm like, okay, y'all left me out of that. Let me just do my own thing. And this happened in several different ministries. I'm like, well, dang, y'all just leaving me out of everything. I'm trying to be a part of the church, trying to, be a part of something. And y'all just giving me the cold shoulder. I mean, left and right. It's like, what did I do? I don't say or do anything to make you upset. I hope not. But, I just got one of those, well, I guess I wasn't good enough to be a part of their ministry. I don't know what it was. And then I experienced on another side where I'm actually in a ministry and I'm helping, and then there's a battle between who should do what and who's better than who. And I literally kept saying to myself, why are we doing this? Are we doing this for God, or are we doing this for ourselves? We need to focus on what God is telling us to do, right? Because God is not a God of confusion. Okay, we shouldn't be confused about who doing what. We should have some order. Put your egos aside, put all that aside. You be happy where you are. You never know how God can promote you wherever you are. But people weren't listening to me. They was too proud, too whatever, and they got into battles with each other. And I'm like, I'm sitting in the background I just want to help. These people need help, and I'm trying to do this, and I can't do this because I'm like, this is frustrating. We in the church, and on one end, people ignoring me and not wanting me to participate, which really hurt because I thought, okay, this is the best place to be, to really help the community and stuff, to be a part of something. But I was never included and they never accepted me. So, I mean, that really hurt. So I started my own, community services and stuff like that from that. And to this day, I'm one of those people, I guess they ignore because I'm not important or popular enough. I don't know what it is, which I really don't care, because my motivation, my reasoning for going to church is not to please anybody. I'm there, to listen to God. If God wants me to do this, I'll do that, and vice versa. And I think people's focus on why they at church, even when they're given a position or a role, you still human. And God gave you that position for a reason, not to abuse it, or make anybody feel small or little about whatever you're doing. But my experience with church was, bullying, judging, being left out, not included, not feeling important, witnessing battles, ego battles, just I'm better than you battle, just stuff you would see outside the church, really. And I'm like, okay, I can't be around that. And, that was one of the reasons why I didn't like attending. It's like, okay, if I do attend, I just keep to myself, because every time I try to get involved with something, it turns out to be one of those things. They end up just leaving me out, don't want me to be involved for whatever reason, or there's a big battle to where it's like, I'm just stuck in the middle, like, well, what you want me to do while y'all fighting? Because I'm here for God. I don't know why y'all here. So that's basically a nutshell. I grew up, and I'm not saying there wasn't any good parts. There's some great parts, in childhood, and even in, great sermons that I've heard, from the pastor. The pastor's the reason why I, stuck with it so much. But to be a part of a ministry or to be anything extra other than just somebody sitting on the pew, you have to battle different personalities. You got to battle people, in authority feeling like they're better than you because they have a title at the church.
Tell me about
things like that. It's like, I'm not trying to be better than you. I'm trying to help you. I want to be a part of what you're doing. I'm not trying to take over. Okay. Well, some people see you as a threat, even when all you're trying to do is help. And
that
it's
part.
yeah, yeah, it's hurtful to me because I'm like, y'all missing out on a lot of blessings because y'all stuck in yourselves, stuck on, oh, your way is the right way, your way is the only way, and you can't see past that. I'm like, I don't really think you in this for God. You in this for yourself. And I don't know if I want to be under that type of leadership in the first place. And church sadly has taught me to just keep to myself. All the experiences that I've experienced trying to be involved, it taught me to keep to myself because people inside or outside of church, if they don't want you involved, they'll make it very obvious to you. And too many people has made that obvious to me. Um, so I'm like, all right, I just do my own thing and see what happens. But that's basically in a nutshell my thoughts on it.
So, question: like, do you feel like had you been accepted into those ministries? I guess my question is like, would you have started your own thing if you had been accepted, or do you feel like the reason why you started your own thing was because you weren't accepted? If that question makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of both. Because I've always wanted to do my own thing. I had a strong passion for it, but I loved working with other people, the people who have the same passion as me. Because they bring ideas that I don't have, and I might bring ideas that they may not have. So if we collaborate together, it could be even bigger, huge. And that's my thought process. Like, oh, let's do this together. It'll be huge. Um, but I kept getting turned down or ignored or whatever like that over and over again to where I did my own thing. It's not as big as I'd like it to be, but I know a few people get blessed by my own personal ministries that I do, you know, just on my own. So I doubt that I would have started something on my own had I not been rejected so much. But I think eventually down the line, because the passion's there so strong, I probably would have ended up doing it. But I think it kind of fast forward my passion to do it on my own because of the rejections that I received.
Also, I look at it like, the reason why you're doing it is because like it's a God thing. And like when you was trying to join these ministries and stuff, it seemed like it was more of a personal ego thing for like the people involved, as opposed to we're all doing this for the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed like two different agendas. Like they had their own, and you was like, "Hey, like we supposed to be doing this for Jesus. Like, what? Why are y'all bickering?"
Yeah, I was always confused on that because my mindset is okay, I'm going to church because I'm trying to learn from God. I'm trying to hear from God. I'm trying to do what God wants me to do. Um, I'm not here just to make myself look good or say I'm a church member. I don't really care about that. I care about what can I do to please God, and not everybody has that mindset. If you're focused on I'm doing this for the Lord, it's a lot of things that you would not be saying and doing when other people are trying to do the same thing. It said God is not a God of confusion. So, why would you give somebody that has the same passion as you a hard time or make them feel unwanted or left out? Why would you do that?
The thing I don't understand is why every time like when someone new comes into the picture, the people who've been there feel like, oh, they coming to take my spot. They coming to take what's mine. Yo, that's not yours. Like, and ain't nobody coming to take nothing. I don't be understanding it.
Oh, well, you know what? Titles. Some folks love titles. If you have a title, you can put that on your resume. You can put that on this and that and that and this, and they love that sense of ownership. And I'm like, it's nice to have a really good title at the church. It's nice, but it doesn't mean nothing if you can't back it up with what God has wanted you to do. It means absolutely nothing. You could be, you know, leader of the usher board, but if you treating the ushers like they're nothing, I don't care if you're the leader of the usher board. You're not doing your job. You're doing it because for the title, not for God. And you can tell the difference. You can see the difference when you're doing something for the Lord as opposed to doing it just because you want the title.
I don't want a title. Never mind. I'm gonna keep my sentence to myself because I know who I'm talking to. No, ma'am. But I don't. That's not something that I strive for. I didn't. Never mind, because that was about to go somewhere else. No, that's not something I strive for. Like, not at all. Because I still want to be like one of those background people, and the Lord is like, yeah,
Nope.
those days are over.
You know that.
Like, oh my God. Anyway, that's a whole different topic.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting into that. Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
No.
But yeah. I mean, I grew up. Church was okay. It was really a lot of redundancy that got really boring for me. But I loved it at the same time because the things I did learn was highly fascinating to me, even as a kid. And I was really into. I love biblical history, so that really kept me, into staying at church. Even when other family members, kind of tapered off a bit and stopped going as much, I always stayed with my grandmother while she was alive. I went with her as much as I possibly could. And like I said, it got to the point to where I ignored people. I didn't care anymore that people were judging me if I didn't have that many clothes because I didn't have like a whole wardrobe. We grew up, you know, with a wooden spoon, not a silver spoon. And we didn't always have the latest and greatest whatever. So of course, I'm going to wear that same dress maybe once or twice, in that same month because that's all I have. But it's clean.
That's
I'm
all
not
that
coming to church, but people, they judge you. They judge you. Didn't you wear that, a couple weeks ago? Yes, I did. Oh my goodness. Kids, kids gonna be kids, like I said. But for me, it's always the adults because they're supposed to be grown and mature. They're not supposed to be angry or hurt as a child. But it was grown people that was like, oh, okay, you wearing that. I'm like, okay. And that kind of pushed me to want to be in the back of the church and all that stuff because just strong, judgmental voices. It's like, man, this is what church is like. But like I said, if it wasn't for my grandmother, I probably would never step foot in the church ever again. She helped me see church differently. She helped me recognize God. She helped me see past people, and just kind of move forward and just focusing on what I need to focus on to hear from God. And through that, I literally had an encounter with God that I told the new pastor about, that changed my life, that actually helped me believe in God, as a 12-year-old. I it was concrete for me. I mean, you grew up saying believe in God, but you really don't know until you know for yourself in your own heart. And I had some spiritual, live encounters with God that kind of solidified, my relationship with God. And that is because I stuck with my grandmother. And I think I would have missed out on that had I, um, just listened to that church, judgmental, hurting, and just being just who they are. I would have missed out on it if it hadn't been for my grandmother. So my grandmother saved me on that part. She really did. She was a huge impact on me. I love her. I wish she was alive today. I give her a big hug and kiss, like, thank you. Life changing, and like I said, as an adult, it carries me through adulthood because I go back to that. When I see people acting crazy and stupid inside the church, I'm like, okay, your focus is off. You're not really focused on trying to get this together. Y'all on some other stuff. When y'all get your life together, y'all come back and call me. That's how I feel sometimes. But if I let the people who kind of left me out, if I just let them just be who they are, I mean, I wouldn't go back to that church either. I wouldn't. And for me, it's hard going to a church where you go for comfort, where you go for love, where you go for support, you go to be included. All the things that you feel like you can't get on the outside world, you go to the church for that. And then when they treat you just like like the people on the outside, it's like, well, where do I go now? I want to give up. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in none of this stuff no more because God's representatives inside the church is not doing a very good job. So I'm like, well, and it's a lot of people that don't go to church because they don't receive the actual welcome that they were told or expected. It's like, wait a minute. And in some cases they worse than the outside. You get more love and appreciation, from your coworker than you can from people who snooting up at you because you wearing this or you said this or you got this talent that they don't have, and the pastor recognized you and they didn't recognize them, and the list goes on. But it's like, wait
Another
a minute.
episode right there. You about to open up a whole nother can of worms right there. Me and my mama was just talking about that 1 or 2 days ago. Woo. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
go ahead. Woo.
Right. And the thing about it is everybody's heard this. I don't know anybody who hasn't. Hurt people, even in the church. If you hurt in the church or you in your feelings and you feeling some type of way, it spills over. It spills over. No matter where you at, you trying to be this woman of God, this man of God, and try to do this and do that with your title, or trying to create a title for yourself at church, and then all of a sudden something don't go right or whatever the situation is, and it spills over. I've experienced that. I've experienced the good, and I experienced some people that don't have enough confidence in themselves, because of the lack of support, from their other church members or whatever. So I'm like, man, it's just church hurt is strong in the church, and it's a reason why this membership it fluctuates up and down. It's the reason why it fluctuates up and down, because the church it's not a building, it's the people.
True.
What are the people saying? What are the people doing? How they making you feel? It's one thing when somebody telling you the truth and it hurts, but it's another thing they telling you something just to bring you down and make you feel low or keep you out or whatever.
And do it in the name of Jesus, Lord. Woo. Hypocrite.
Right. It's two different things. It's a maturity type of deal to where, you got to hear the truth because this is the truth, and you leave because of that. That means you haven't matured yet. You haven't accepted your truth yet. And then there's another one to where they just trying their best to make you feel better, or I don't need you passing me. I don't want you to be better than me. I'm like, how are you supposed to get in heaven with this frame of mind? We in this together, but why are you? I don't understand your resume. I don't understand your resume of shutting people out, or making them feel lower than dirt inside the church, or you got something negative to say. I mean, I've literally heard people in the church say, well, I don't want that person near me because they retired or they stupid or whatever. I'm like, really? You said that? Or they've said something really, really mean. I mean, I can go into detail, but it's too many of them. They said something really, really mean, to make them sound like, they're just completely incompetent. And I'm like, well, maybe they're not the person for that role, but you don't try to make them feel bad and throw them up on the bus or make them feel lower than dirt. You help them find something that matches what their passion is and say, okay, well, maybe this is more to your liking. Maybe this fits you more, or either, something called patience. We all need that patience with the person who really has the passion for it. They may not be good at it, but eventually they do get good at it. You just never know. It's like, it's it's crazy, but church hurt is very strong, very real, and it affects it. It impacts the memberships at the church.
Any last words?
You know, you got a few strong people in your life that kind of help you oversee the church hurt that keep you moving forward. Which my I give all credit to my grandmother for that. If it wasn't for her, I'd be a victim of church hurt to where I'd never go to church ever again. And I don't care what anybody says to me or whatever, try to convince me or whatever. I wouldn't care. But I do care because she helped me see past, people's imperfections.
Ooh, wee,
There
man.
you go.
Ooh, wee. This church hurt is turning into something else. I didn't expect
Yeah.
all of this, but okay. We're going down a rabbit hole. Everyone who does the whole church hurt series with me, we're going down the rabbit hole, people. Hope they enjoy the ride. Oh, oh, all right. So this has been another episode of Light in the Dark podcast. I am your host, Lady B. The guest we had today was Cheryl. And on that note, deuces.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.